Okay, gotta admit, sometimes getting smarter sounds about as fun as like, you know, pop quiz time.
Yeah.
But what if I told you there's a way to make learning feel less uh, like homework
Yeah.
and more like actually enjoyable?
Yeah, more like fun.
That's exactly what we're doing today.
Yeah.
We found this really cool podcast episode
Okay.
all about making lifelong learning a joyride, not a total grind.
It is interesting, right? Like we always think of learning as like classrooms and textbooks and lectures,
Yeah.
but our brains are literally made to keep growing.
Right.
And that growth can be way more enjoyable than we think.
So ditch the whole like dusty library image,
Yeah.
late night cram sessions.
Yeah.
This podcast is about making learning part of our lives
Exactly.
in ways that actually like spark our curiosity.
Yeah.
And they start right off talking about lifelong learning, saying
Yeah.
education shouldn't end when you get your diploma.
The idea of lifelong learning is realizing that learning isn't just about, getting skills for a job or for a test or whatever.
Right.
It's about keeping our minds like engaged and flexible.
Okay.
It's like exercise, but for our brains,
Mm.
and just like physical exercise. It has some pretty amazing benefits.
I like that analogy.
Yeah. And they suggest some really cool things like reading books outside your usual genres,
Yep.
or, those free online courses you see everywhere.
Yeah.
Anything from coding to like creative writing.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to learn some basic coding forever,
Mm-hmm.
but every time I see one of those dense tutorials, I just want to run away.
Right.
Maybe I need a more like casual approach.
Yeah, maybe like a project-based thing.
Yeah, something like that. But wait a second. This podcast also mentions brain games.
Uh-huh.
Are they seriously saying that Sudoku and crosswords can actually make us smarter?
Well, think about it. Those games aren't just mindless entertainment, right?
I guess.
They make our brains think strategically, solve problems,
Okay.
flex those memory muscles. And actually, there was a study published in the Journal of Applied Gerontology, and they found that seniors who did crossword puzzles regularly actually showed improvements in memory and reasoning skills.
Really?
Yeah. And if you want something more modern, there are tons of brain training apps now,
Oh, yeah.
like Lumosity and Peak,
Mhm.
and they're designed to target specific things like attention memory processing speed.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal here.
Yeah,
It's like sneaking in a mental workout while you're on the train or something.
exactly.
What about reading, though?
Yeah,
I love to just curl up with a good book.
of course.
But does that actually count as like brain training?
Totally. Even reading something simple like a news article strengthens pathways in your brain, improves your vocab,
Okay.
and exposes you to new ideas.
So it's about constantly feeding our minds with info, just like we feed our bodies with food.
Exactly.
Which brings us to one of the most important things this podcast talked about.
Yeah,
Curiosity.
absolutely.
Just like desire to learn and explore.
Mm-hmm.
They really emphasize that asking questions is key to getting smarter. And I totally get it. Like when I'm genuinely curious about something,
Yeah.
I actually remember the information.
Right, because if you're not asking questions, are you even really paying attention?
Right, exactly.
Curiosity is what drives you to learn more.
Yeah.
When we're curious, we're engaged, we ask questions, we make connections.
Okay.
It's not just passively taking in information,
Hmm.
it's actively seeking it out and making it meaningful to us.
So curiosity is like the gateway drug to lifelong learning.
I like that.
I like that too.
All right, so this next one might surprise you.
Uh.
The podcast actually connected physical health and brain power,
Really?
talking exercise, diet, the whole 9 yards.
You're kidding.
Nope. Is there really a link between how we treat our bodies and how sharp our minds are?
Well, I mean, I know exercise is good for you in general, but
It might sound surprising, but the connection is actually pretty profound.
Yeah.
They talked about how exercise, even something as simple as a brisk walk, can actually help grow new brain cells,
wow.
which then improves memory and learning.
So it's like giving your brain fresh energy.
Exactly.
Wait, so you're telling me I don't have to be like a marathon runner to get these benefits?
No, not at all.
Phew, because I'm way more of a walk in the park kind of person.
That's the beauty of it. They were very clear that any kind of physical activity helps.
Okay.
Whether it's dancing, gardening, swimming, even taking the stairs instead of the elevator,
Yeah.
all those little things add up to a healthier brain.
And of course, we can't forget about food.
Right. They mentioned a bunch of brain-boosting foods like salmon, walnuts, berries.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing that what we eat can have such a direct impact on how well our brains work.
I'm definitely going to be stocking up on blueberries after this.
It's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Those foods are full of essential nutrients that support brain health.
Mm,
Things like omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidants, vitamins,
right.
they all play a crucial role in keeping our minds sharp.
Speaking of crucial things, sleep.
Yes.
The podcast talked about how important it is to get enough sleep
Yeah.
because that's when our brains process everything.
Ah,
All that info we take in during the day.
right. It's like giving your brain the downtime it needs to sort through everything,
Yeah.
make connections, and recharge for the next day.
So basically, if you don't sleep enough, you're just hitting the delete button on everything you learned.
Pretty much.
Okay, this next one really got my attention.
Yeah.
Apparently, who we choose to hang out with can actually affect how smart we get.
Interesting.
I mean, everyone knows that saying you are the company you keep, right?
Yeah.
But is there really science behind that?
It's not just an old wise tale. Research actually supports it.
Really?
The podcast emphasized being around positive, knowledgeable people.
Okay.
People who challenge us to think differently.
Mm-hmm.
When we're exposed to new ideas and ways of thinking, it stretches our minds and helps us grow intellectually.
Well, what about when we disagree with those people?
Yeah,
I mean, let's be real. We're not always going to agree with everyone, right?
of course not.
How do you deal with those differences of opinion without ending up in a huge argument?
That's a great question, and the podcast actually addressed that directly.
Okay, good.
They argued that having respectful debates with people who have different viewpoints can actually make our critical thinking skills sharper
Okay.
and make us more open-minded.
How so?
Well, it's about learning to explain your own viewpoint, but
Yeah.
also listen to others and
Mhm.
find common ground even when you disagree.
So it's like a mental sparring match.
I like that.
You're testing out your ideas, refining your arguments, and becoming a more well-rounded thinker.
Exactly.
So it's not just about absorbing information like a sponge.
Nope.
It's also about how we use that information when we're interacting with other people.
Absolutely. Lifelong learning isn't just something you do alone.
Okay.
It's something we do in relation to others and the world around us.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and that brings us to a really interesting point about the interconnectedness of learning.
Oh.
But we'll save that for the next part of our deep dive.
All right. Sounds good.
See you then. So, welcome back. I'm curious, did that last bit about social circles and learning spark any thoughts for you?
It did, actually.
Yeah.
Made me think about like who I spend time with
Mm-hmm.
and how their like perspectives and interests might be kind of shaping my own.
It is about recognizing the power of our networks.
Yeah.
And like
I'm
being intentional about who we're around.
Right.
But let's switch gears a bit.
Okay.
Remember how we were saying lifelong learning is like a joyride?
Yeah.
Well, this podcast we're looking at actually gives some really practical advice for how to get started,
Okay.
especially if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed by all this.
Yeah. Roadmap time.
Haha, exactly.
I kind of feel like I'm at the bottom of a mountain, you know,
Look at it.
looking up at this huge peak of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Any tips for making the climb a little less scary?
Well, they've really stressed. Starting small.
Okay.
Don't try to change your whole life at once.
Right.
Just pick one new habit and focus on making it stick. It could be something small, even like reading for 15 minutes before bed,
Mm-hmm.
or listening to an educational podcast during your commute.
Okay. That's a relief.
Yeah.
I thought I needed to sign up for a bunch of courses or something.
Haha. No, not a
Become a master of everything overnight.
One step at a time is definitely better.
Way more manageable.
It's about building those habits, you know?
Yeah.
Not creating a ton of pressure.
Right.
They also talked about setting realistic goals.
Okay.
Like, don't expect to become fluent in a language in a week or something.
Yeah.
Just focus on making progress little by little and celebrate those small wins along the way.
I like that.
And this might sound weird, but they also said to like embrace failure as part of the process.
So what? Embrace failure.
Yeah. Isn't that kind of the opposite of what we're always taught?
Yeah, like avoid mistakes at all costs.
Right. But what they're saying is that failure is just part of learning.
Okay.
It's how we grow and get better.
I guess so.
So instead of seeing it as a setback, try to see it as feedback. Like, what can you learn from that experience? What would you do differently next time?
Makes sense. I guess it's like that saying every expert was once a beginner.
Exactly.
Everyone makes mistakes.
Even the people we think are super smart.
Yeah, what matters is how we learn from them and keep going.
Exactly. And that actually leads to another point they made. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with admitting when you're struggling or need some guidance.
Yeah, sometimes you just need a fresh perspective, you know?
Exactly. It could be a teacher, a mentor, a friend, even just an online community.
Mm-hmm. People who are into the same things you are.
Right. And they also talked about finding a learning style that works for you.
Oh, yeah.
We all learn differently, right?
Totally.
Some people are visual learners, some people learn by listening, some people need to actually do things.
Yeah, I'm definitely a hands-on learner for sure.
Me too.
Hmm.
I need to actually apply what I'm learning, or it just goes in one ear and out the other.
Yeah, which reminds me, they had this cool suggestion about finding learning opportunities in everyday life.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be all structured courses and textbooks.
Right.
There's so much we can learn just by paying attention to the world around us.
What kind of things did they suggest?
They gave examples like watching documentaries instead of reality TV,
Okay.
or listening to educational podcasts during your commute, or even just talking to people who have different opinions than you.
It's about cultivating curiosity.
Oh, yeah, and finding those little learning moments throughout your day.
I love that it's like turning life into one big classroom.
Right. So we've talked about starting small, setting realistic goals, embracing failure, asking for help, and finding your learning style.
Mm-hmm.
Any other wisdom from this podcast?
Their last piece of advice was maybe the most important. Believe in yourself.
Yeah, that's a big one. It's
Yeah.
so easy to get caught up in self-doubt, you know?
Especially when you're trying something new.
Exactly, like getting out of your comfort zone.
But it's about having a growth mindset,
Yeah.
embracing challenges and trusting yourself to adapt and learn.
But basically, this whole section was about giving us the tools and the right mindset to start our own lifelong learning journey.
That's a great way to put it. Start small, set realistic goals, make it fun, embrace failure, ask for help, and most importantly, believe in yourself.
Love it.
Remember, learning isn't just about collecting facts.
Okay.
It's about becoming more well-rounded, adaptable, and engaged.
Right.
It's about actually loving to learn and how that can make your life better in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually brings us back to that idea of interconnectedness we talked about before.
Oh, yeah.
Ready to dive into that?
All right, lay it on me, this interconnectedness of learning thing.
Okay, well, think back to some of the stuff we've talked about already,
Yeah.
like how being around curious people
Yeah.
can actually make you think better,
Right.
or how having respectful debates can sharpen your critical thinking skills.
Yeah. Okay.
Those are examples of how learning isn't just a solo mission. It's something that happens when you're with other people.
It's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Exactly. We can do so much more when we're learning and growing with other people.
The podcast really highlighted that, didn't it?
Yeah, we learn from everyone we interact with.
Okay.
Whether it's someone directly teaching us or shared experiences, or even just observing how they think and act.
And it makes sense. We're social creatures, right?
Yeah.
Like we're constantly picking up info from the people around us.
Yeah, but this interconnectedness goes beyond just our friends and family.
Okay, where else does it go?
The podcast also talked about connecting with the world in a bigger sense,
Right.
like how learning a new language can open up a whole new world of experiences, cultures, even ways of thinking.
You know, I've always wanted to learn Italian.
Really?
Yeah, not just for like ordering food on vacation or whatever,
Yeah.
but to actually like immerse myself in the culture,
Hmm.
understand the language and connect with people on a deeper level.
That's a perfect example of how learning builds connections.
Yeah.
It's not just about the knowledge, it's about building bridges, expanding your world.
And it's not just languages, right?
Oh, not at all.
Like they talked about traveling to new places, exploring different art forms, even spending time in nature.
Yeah.
All those things can give you new perspectives.
It's all connected. The more you learn, the more you feel connected to everything around you. And the
Yeah.
more connected you feel, the more you want to learn and explore.
It's a pretty cool cycle.
It is.
Wow. This has been an amazing deep dive.
It has.
We've learned so much about lifelong learning and the power of curiosity and how our learning is connected to other people and the world around us.
It's been so fun exploring these ideas with you
Likewise.
and seeing your passion for learning.
Really?
Just remember, it's
I think the biggest thing I'm taking away from this is that learning isn't just about memorizing facts. It's about being curious, trying new things, and connecting with the world in ways that matter.
That's beautifully said.
Thanks.
And remember, that journey is yours to create.
Yeah.
What are you going to learn? What connections are you going to make?
The possibilities are endless.
They are.
So to everyone listening out there, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep that curiosity alive.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Until next time, happy learning, everyone.